Okay, I'm here with Mike Ross today in sunny Brighton, or not so sunny Brighton, in his home studio. Mike, nice to meet you.
Nice to see you again, Will.
Long time no see, since
Yeah, at
Saturday.
least 4 days, 5 days.
You opened up the Blue Stage at
Mm.
Crazy Cowboy Festival 4 to a quite a big audience for that time of day. How was
Yeah,
it for you?
it was great. It was hit the ground running. We were just talking about it before the camera started up. My song Leviathan. When you hear the first notes of that, you know that something's different's about to happen. It's not your usual intro. So it was, it was great for me. I was a little bit worried about the response because it was a more of a rocky crowd than I often play to, but I had a great reception, played a great set.
I think you held your own. I mean,
Yeah,
I've seen you live before, and when you play with the Mike Ross band, it's a lot heavier than what people would
yeah,
expect, I
yeah.
think.
It can be. It can also be a lot lighter.
But no, I think it went down a treat. I mean, everyone I spoke to afterwards was saying how good that set was, how good the sound was, and yeah, and I saw quite a few T-shirts
Yeah.
for Clovis Limit and for RHR.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, there were lots of RHR supporters there. That was great to see them all.
that's excellent. Well, obviously I'm here with you today. We're going to chat about future projects, I guess. We better start with RHR as that's being released in next month,
The
November.
official release date is the 8th of November.
So
Yeah,
just
yeah.
over a month.
Yeah, we've had a single out from the album already. There's another one actually drops tomorrow. The pre-orders, which are the whole reason that it's happening, was that we had 100 pre-orders through the Facebook campaign. That's allowed us to make the CDs. They're all out, so the people that helped us out when we didn't have any traction, they've all got their copies now. And then we've got a short run of dates, the last dates with Jack, in support of that record.
So your last shows for this year at Jackman will be November, is that?
Yeah, so the last three shows are the 8th, 9th and 10th, and the 8th's the day the record comes out, and then we're playing at a rock festival in Cornwall on the Saturday, and then the last gig is at Fleet on Sunday.
Oh, is that the acoustic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be a nice way, it'll be an emotional show actually, I should imagine.
So that's Harlington, isn't it?
That's right, yeah, and I'm not sure if it's in the big stage or if it's in the...
They've got the bar outside of
Yeah, I think
where
they're
they
going
have
to
the
put it in there.
acoustic.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be good because it's only the three of us acoustically. But I think the idea there is to play a bit together, break out into the three little solo bits, and then play a bit more at the end, back together. So
I mean, the crowds you'll get there as well are going to be full-on music lovers. Obviously, you've got the crowd that do the Tuesday Night Music Club, Harlington itself. You've got the Echo Hotel Music. You've got all those guys in that area. I would imagine will be clambering over themselves to be part of that finale. Should we say?
and it's all those people have been a big part of the band's journey, because the first shows, I mean we haven't done that many shows to be fair, but the first shows were one of them was at the Tuesday Night Music Club, and then we also played in January this year at the Harlington, and I've got lots of friends who kind of habit those Hampshire, Surrey, North Sussex environs, so that they're a big part of the band's history and all of our solo projects. They're big supporters of ours.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, we talked the other day a little bit about RHR, and it's almost a surprise that it's punching above its weight when it was out. And you also talked about it being a platform to advertise each and every one of yours personal abilities.
Yeah. Well, it was an accident. It was an accident. It was to do with the billing on Cone Festival, and I was talking to the organisers of that, and I said, please could you put me and Jack and Troy on the same bill one night, and we'll call it something different, and then it'd be easy because people keep mistaking us for each other anyway. So if we put us all in the same room at the same time, then you'd get all that crowd. And that didn't happen. But then it kind of did. I did one gig with Jack and one gig with Troy. And then we booked one gig at the Half Moon, called the Space Blues Extravaganza, which was just 2 years ago yesterday, I think. And then out of that we got some offers for gigs, and so we booked a little tour. And then we said we'd record a couple of tracks. It turned into an album. And it just kind of snowballed really. But it's a good sound, and I think the way that we play together is really complementary. You don't get too much of one or too much of the other. There's been no competitiveness. in terms of songwriting or soloing or arrangements or anything like that. It's been really natural.
I think it's good for you all individually as well to work with like-minded people, but obviously not to take the lead on everything, and to sort of almost have some input which you're probably not used to always getting because you do so much on your own.
Yeah, well, you know what? It was designed to be supportive for all of our careers, So we're all busy. We're all as busy as each other, I would say. We're all flying around all over Europe doing our own things. And then the idea with RHR, speaking personally and from what I understand from the others' experience of being on stage, it's quite a relief to have people that have got your back, So
I suppose everything doesn't fall on your shoulders to.
Well, we're all in the same position. We're all kind of DIY artists, right? So we do all the songwriting, do all the booking, do all the arranging, do all of everything. So to go into that place, to share the responsibilities on at least some of that, but mainly just to have fun on stage. There's times when I could just go like this and just take my hands off the guitar, and there's more than enough going on. Or I can be getting, just play a really little
intricate,
supportive part behind what Troy's playing and what Jack's playing.
And from a fan's point of view, from the crowd side, it shows. When you guys are on stage, it shows you're having fun, and it shows almost like you're experimenting. Like you're talking about, you can play little bits, and someone's got your back, and it all seems to work to create a wonderful sound. And obviously, we know Jack's now leaving in November, and I know it's too soon to speak about replacements and carrying on and stuff like that. But from a personal point of view, I really hope RHR continues in one form or another because it's such a good concept. But no, I've loved it, and I'm sure everybody else has loved it as well, including yourselves. And it must be a pleasant surprise to see how it blew up.
Great, it's great. I mean, we're headlining festivals now, coming way up the ranks. It's been a big shortcut for all of us, I think, and I don't underestimate that. And it's not an ego thing. I'm doing this. All of this is so that I can get music that people will listen to, and the more people listen to it, the more fun it is, right? Because then the bigger the whole thing gets, the more justifiable it becomes as something you can spend your time on. And
it allows you the access to create that music. It gives you
it's a constant thing. I can't. Well, I can and probably will continue just to make records regardless of who's hearing them. But the more people hear them, the better, right?
Absolutely. So, like you say, free individually, you've got your own sets of fans. Bring you all together, you've got that. Not only your own fans, but you have almost a combination and new fans because this whole new concept they're seeing on stage. Now, obviously, it does give them the access to all your back catalogues, so you get, like you say, that exposure.
Yeah, that was it. We talked about Crazy Cowboy, and on Saturday,
it's a crowd you wouldn't normally play.
It's a crowd I haven't played with so much, but there's certainly things about that crowd or that scene that my music appeals to.
I think they're just real music lovers. They just want to experience live music as it was meant to be, and they appreciate everything that goes into that. And I think it could be regardless of what the genre is, because even on Saturday, 15 bands. There was different genres within those 15 bands.
Absolutely, there was, yeah.
But it all worked. Yeah. Collectively, it worked as a great day of music, of live music.
Well, I mean, that's Steph and Alec. They go and see a lot of bands, don't they? And they kind of know what's going to hang together, I think.
Well, even if they don't, it just seems to work.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but I guess from what I understand and what I see of Crazy Cowboy, he only works with bands that he's going to get on with and that fit within a certain kind of continuum. In terms of attitude.
I think
and
he doesn't
ability.
like egos.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to say that, but because somebody might be watching this that he hasn't given a gig to, but I don't know. But
well, they will know why now.
Yeah, but for me, I see people, like-minded individuals. They're there to create music. They're there to engage with audiences. They're there to have a good time. They're not there to show off. They're not there to stamp on anybody else or give anybody else a hard time. And that's neither am I.
No,
so
I mean, it's like Saturday. There was no diva moments.
No,
everybody was mingling, musicians to fans to merch guys to people, security to the bars. Everybody seemed just to be enjoying the day. So can't ask for more than that.
Absolutely,
really.
No, it was great.
So your last record, Clovis Limit. Now, we talked about this on Saturday as well. I saw you at the Echo Hotel Music Club supporting Xander and the Peace Pirates as a free piece. And I think you had Alex on drums for the first time. And it was a rocking show. It was an amazing show. It sounded great. And then, obviously, I listened to the Clovis Limit Part 1 on the way home in the car. And it was such a diverse angle of music. You know, it was beautiful. But it was so different to what I just...
Well, the three-piece band that I've had out on the road, you know, for the last 3 or 4 years, either with organ or with bass guitar, not usually with both, is, you know, that my record Jenny's Place is quite thick. It's quite chewy. You know, it's like early 70s sort of sound, and that's really the sound of the band as it is when you come and see the three-piece. It'll be a bit psychedelic. It'll be a bit rocky. It will have those moments, but it'll also have soulful and leaning towards a bit of country. But the Clovis Limit, the first record, the one I made in Nashville last year, came around as a result of an opportunity that I had to go over there and record. I was introduced to some musicians that and I had to go there for another reason, you know. So it all kind of dovetailed together. It's a record that the kind of which I've always wanted to make, introduce that kind of songwriting to my back catalogue, if you like. I love it. I love the descriptiveness of that. I love pedal steel. I love fiddle.
Because the songwriting's fantastic, you know, it comes across really storytelling.
And this is it, and I think, you know, I do that on all of my songs, but sometimes you can't hear it if you've got a Les Paul into a Marshall with a tremolo and a reverb going, and it's, you know, everybody's hitting the hell out of it.
What?
So to have those kind of softer, more gentle storytelling songs is great. But you know, I'll play those songs live, and there'll be big psychedelic solos in them.
Yeah, of course.
You know, but it is like a little bit of a sideways trajectory compared with the stuff I've been doing before that, and certainly with the RHR record.
I mean, you also obviously recorded a duet on there with Els Bailey, you talked about as well, where you actually wrote that with her in mind after speaking to her.
Yeah, that's right. I'd seen her play a couple of times, but then there was one particular show in Sussex I went to, and she was talking a lot about her inspiration in between songs, where she went, what the songs were about. And that's when I really realised how deeply I kind of clicked with her roots, you know, in terms of her Muscle shows and her Stax records and all that kind of stuff, and I love that stuff. And duets, I'm a big Steve Earle fan, and he sets a lot of store in his duets, you know. So, and I'd always kind of wanted to write a duet, and never really found anybody to write a duet about. It's no fun writing it by yourself. But yeah, that was it. Within 12 hours, that song was written. And then I Facebook messaged her and I said, "Oh, I've written us this song. What do you think?" She went with it.
So I was going to say, fortunately, she was like, "Yep."
Yeah, she went with it. Well, I just knew, you know. I mean, I'm all about connections. I'm all about connections with people. That's how the project with RHR came about. That's how, you know, that's how a lot of things in my life come around. Just kind of bouncing off and just being willing to be influenced by events rather than trying to control them.
Back to RHR. Hotel Toledo is out 8th of November, you say. Obviously pre-orders are out now. Yep. People should have them on their doorsteps by now. Now, Hotel Toledo is a different concept altogether to Mahogany Drift. What brought about this change?
Well, it isn't. I mean, we didn't have very high expectations for Mahogany Drift. You know, I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. So I said, let's bring 3 songs each, and then we'll do an instrumental. And that was going to be the 10 songs, and it turned into 11, just because we split the instrumental in half. And then we worked on it, and it became what it came. But this time around, after the release of Mahogany Drift, a lot of people said, it's great, but where's the jamming? Where's the 3 guitars going mad that we were expecting? And it's hard to match people's expectations. I don't know about you, but it's never been much fun.
Especially in the studio.
Well, just in general, you know, people... I've learned one thing here. It's like you were saying about coming to see my band and we sound like, you know, Humble Pie. And then you listen to the record and it sounds like Graham Parsons. You know, it's like, to me, it's all the same. But your expectation, I can't match because you have one. I don't know what it is.
You're just you on stage doing what you do.
Yeah, doing what I do, but moving through, you know, I'm on the journey. But with Hotel Toledo, it was partly as a result of people saying, yeah, but where's the jamming?
So
So he said, well, I'll show
we'll do
you.
a whole album.
Let's do a whole album of jamming without any songs, without any choruses, without any words. Well, let's just say what we think through the guitars, you know. And actually, the idea wasn't something that was originally going to be done with RHR. It was an idea that I had to go in the studio just with an organ player and a drummer, and just have the same sort of idea, have some little riffs, and the project was going to be called Unprocessed Trauma, and just to kind of release some demons. But then we were in Germany, we were in Germany with RHR, and Troy and I and Jack was there too, talking at the airport, and I said, well, I've had this idea and I wonder if it might actually be good for us to do instead of me doing it just with a 3-piece. And we had a day off in the tour dates in May. I said, well, we could do it then. And I booked the studio, it was only a mile away from here. And so we had all the gear in the van. We were all travelling together anyway, so on our day off we just lobbed all the gear in Brighton Electric, set it all up in the room. A good friend of mine came and produced. We put the mics up and we just jammed for 5 hours. You know, we had a couple of things pre-worked out from a couple of sound checks, but the majority of it was there on the studio floor.
Just winging it,
yeah.
I think that will come across as well. It's hard to fake something that's natural, you know, and hopefully people will experience the naturalness of the way it was recorded.
And I learned from that, because after I'd booked that, and then Paul Wynn, he engineered it and sort of co-produced it with me, we were sitting and I go, well, here's what I want to do, and I have this, and then what we'll do is after that, when it's all recorded, I want to put some effects across it. I want to pan it. I mic the drum kit up twice, and I wanted to do is I want to take one drum sound, then I want to crossfade to the other drum sound as I bring a guitar across the mix, and then the bass comes up a bit, you know.
And he's going, whoa.
And it was all, you know, really expensive sounding. But actually, we went out into the studio, we did it, and because of the nature of the band, where you've got Jack's a more direct player, and Troy and I are a little bit more, you know, we gave Jack's directness gives us the potential to be able to hover around in a different space, playing with a delay or playing with an effect, and then, you know, kind of transitioning through. So we didn't need to do any of those clever things because we did it live, you know.
And I think the main thing is you have to be happy with the outcome before you put it out there to the general public, obviously.
I think so. So we didn't know what we'd have. We didn't know whether we'd have an album or we just might put a couple of tracks out digitally or whatever. But it was pretty clear to me. I went into this, you know, we did it, and then Paul did some rough mixing, and then I went into his little studio, and we did some editing. And by edits, I didn't. You can do anything with this gear now. You can tune anything, you can move anything, you can change anything you want, literally. You've got the time. We didn't do any of that. What we did was, so the first song, which is in English is the Dreaming of Eagles. It was about 38 minutes long, and we just trimmed out a few bits where it kind of lost its pace, you know. So where there was a section where the drums maybe didn't work so well, so we just
Maybe a little bit more user friendly.
We just shortened it off a little bit here and there, but there's no repairs, there's no tuning, there's no overdubs, there's no effects. I mean, we didn't even. Paul had put a lot of reverb on, and that's you. But you don't do that to my records.
I can do that myself.
But what he said was, what I've done is to give it a bit of life. I've created this digital room that we've put it all in, so that we've got this proper. And I said, yeah, but you've just put reverb on, haven't you? So let's take that off.
Of all my reasoning, and I am bleeding from my thorny crown. But you never confess, says the voice in my head, and it's fading every now. Alright. Salute to the almighty Leviathan. I am naked to the waking dawn. As I rise from my bed, I'll take solace instead. Now the whistle of my favorite song. Take aim, all you dog-hearted bastards, sitting in your ivory tower. But I hope that someday you'll crushed in despair. And all the beauty that was true.
So, can we have a secret snippet of this song?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got it all laid out here for us to, and we can.
So this is the first track off.
That we can play the first track, yeah. So you hear there. Actually, if I just do that again, it's literally. This is somebody pressing record in the control room because you hear it. There's no fade in or anything, and you hear Troy. He's tuning. And then everybody just comes in. So this wasn't discussed. So my guitar's kind of swooping over there. We're all kind of coalescing, kind of coming in, the drums come in.
I think, like you say, you can picture in your mind, if you've been to one of your sound checks where each of you are just setting your guitars up, and one will start. I've seen you start before, then the others will come in.
Yeah,
It sounds great.
This is exactly what it is. You know, I think Darren is like, oh, we've actually started.
Well, I think it's nice that there's that almost like natural where he comes in. It's not.
And we could have changed that, but I wanted to be really clear exactly what was going on.
This is definitely one you just need to turn up and listen to.
Get the joysticks going.
Yeah, that sounds great. So this is track one. What's track one called?
So it's called. All the titles are Spanish. I did most of the referencing for this record because we did it, and then I think 10 days later I was in Spain on tour, 2 weeks. So I took the rough mixes, and it just became wedded to Spanish language, to Spanish travelling, the whole thing. It really fitted. We were going through desert and mountains.
So Hotel Toledo was one of your places?
Hotel Toledo was the place that we stayed on my day off in the last MRB Spanish tour. Yeah, the hotel, and I looked on the schedule and I said, oh, the hotel is in Toledo.
Perfect title.
Yeah, here it went.
So what was the title of this in Spanish?
So in Spanish, in my dreadful Spanish accent, is El Sueño de Aguila, I think it's pronounced, and it means a dream of eagles. And I can tell you for why, because if you listen here, so it's gone, but we've been where we've been, and I'll do that again. So it's gone where it's gone, it's double timed. We've all had a bit of flash around this solo. the tune drops up and down in this a few times. A bit of jazz. And then we get to the special effects section of the composition. Bear in mind, this is all, as we said, this is just people standing together. And I had a little trick up my sleeve that I wanted to get on this record, which is coming up. Screaming of eagles. That kind of thing. It's actually my drill. I have a little electric drill, played through the guitar pickup.
Yeah.
And then I into this I have a copycat tape delay there. But you just get these little eagle screams. So that's where the track name came from. And it's reflected in the album artwork. So you've got the eagles in there.
So it's one of those where, like I say, you just basically off on a journey with the music.
Yeah.
And I guess that's how you guys wanted it to be as well, so that it's a journey, it's not just a record. You know?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, there's a precedent for it, because you get the excuse me, just turn that down. There's a lot of prog records that kind of have that approach, but usually with the sound of more munchkins or people screaming or awkward time signatures and things. But I just wanted, from the production point of view, I wanted to get that kind of desert rock jam band. Maybe if you've heard of a band called Earthless.
Yeah.
They have that kind of thing.
I think you've, like you say, you've created that naturalness.
Yeah.
And I think that comes across, like you say, especially like
well, it's totally unmessed with. This is exactly how it sounded in the room.
And I think, having seen you guys sound check several times, I can relate to this.
Yeah.
Because I can see what happens.
Well, it's in the studio. We put the kit, and then we put baffles around the kit, and then we put the amps in front of the baffles, and the amps are in the same order as we have them on stage, and then the stereo positioning. So I am in the left speaker, hard left. You get a little bit of spill over here. And then you've got Jack's right in the middle, Troy's hard right, the bass is somewhere off, like in between Jack and Troy, and the drums are mixed live. So if you look at Darren's kit, if you're on the front of the stage and Darren's at the kit, his hi-hat's here. So you should, if we did our job correctly, you should hear the hi-hat here, and then the ride cymbal over here, and that's the idea. We've tried to preserve that live sound.
I think as well it helps that you've got 5 fantastic musicians in their own right. You know, obviously you 3 individually have got your own careers, and Ulysses, Jack Browning, has played with some great people. He's a fantastic guitarist. Darren again has played with so many different people, and he's great at what he does. It helps to have that core of musicianship, I suppose.
Yeah, well, Darren and I have been playing together for 10 years, so the connection that the kind of conversations that we can have in a glance, they're really shortcut things. Yeah, so I'm looking at Troy and I'm thinking, well, I'm trying to anticipate what he's doing, think, well, what would be good for him now? What would that be? Would it be to stay the same, or would it be to move to something else? What would be good for Jack now? He likes to really go for it when he's soloing. So let's give him the space to do that.
And then Jack says he's never heard anybody play guitar as loud as you.
Yeah, but that's
I've heard that many times.
I'm not sure what he means by that, because
I think the aggression when you do go for it, I think you've probably it's great. It works brilliant.
I mean, I think that I will use my sound to support the band at all times, but if he stands too near my amp, then it's going to sound loud.
It's his own fault. Damn you, Jack.
Well, I can't comment, because I think that we work well on stage in terms of volume.
Oh, I do.
But I remember one gig at the Black Heart where we were all stood in front of each other's amps, and it wasn't particularly pleasant. But it's a little stage.
That's the Black Heart for you.
Yeah, there's 5 of us on that tiny stage.
So we talked a little bit earlier about this being in front of different crowds and the exposure. Now, obviously, you're wearing a New Wave of Classic Rock T-shirt today, and they've come up over the last couple of years as a, I suppose, a fulcrum for all these different bands to be noticed by more and more people who are looking for new music, good music, live music.
Well, yeah, there has to be something, doesn't there? Because there's such a disconnect between chart and the kind of music that gets money spent on advertising of it, and then what people actually appear to want to listen to.
I mean, we've just had the download list, you know, the download.
And it's,
And you've got,
it's a disappointment
yeah,
every year.
Kiss, Iron Maiden, and I think System of a Down.
Yeah.
So you've got, and it's like, well, great bands, but where's the new bands?
Well, you know, I mean, I would see. One of my favourite bands is AC/DC. You know, and see them probably 2 years ago. You know, and the Olympic Stadium was not called that now, QE2 Stadium or something.
Oh, was that with Axl?
Yes. Yeah, and there was what, I don't know how many tens of thousands of people, but I mean, just say for example, if there's 50,000 right people in there, probably not a bad guess. I don't know if it was sold out or whatever. And then I remember I walked past, there were 18 Arctics, 18 articulated lorries with AC/DC back in black effectively on the bonnet of each of these American trucks, you know, 18 of them. And then all this stuff, and so you go in, there's 50,000 people there, most of them were wearing devil's horns, right?
Yeah.
I bought a pair of devil's horns, they were a fiver. So what's 50,000 times 5?
Exactly.
So that's £250,000 on devil's horns. And a lot of people I saw were wearing t-shirts, the t-shirts started at 25 quid.
Yeah.
That's where the money's going.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Right? So it's no wonder that bands that pull that kind of thing are getting the bookings, because it's safe, and there's people, it's a business. So if you book Kiss, you're going to get loads of people that are going to go and see Kiss. And it's not the same as the people that want to experience new live music.
Right.
So there has to something has to have come up, and it seems to be the new wave guys. You know, I mean, they're lovely people, and I think nobody's more surprised than them at how big the movement's got, because it's a way of connecting. I go to Scotland, and I go to Cornwall, and I go to Southend, you know, and everywhere in between, and I see this T-shirt, and people go, "I heard your record through that," and you know, it's an invaluable resource for musicians like me and like Jack and Troy, because you know, our Facebook feeds, our social media feeds are constantly taken over by people that can spend the money on the advertising. You know, you read classic rock magazine, you only hear about the bands that have got the money because they're the ones that can afford the advertising. They're the ones that get the interviews, you know.
I mean, I've noticed that even with smaller bands, if they've got a PR company that are prepared to spend them or get the money off the bands to spend the money.
Well, that's what it is.
Then it seems to push them into the front.
Well, of course it does, because it's, you know, it's like 20% of this is musical ability.
Well, I guess it's been the same since the world began. So
but there used to be an industry of supportive smaller labels. You know, the stuff was done by subscription. I don't know. You talk about it's endemic. So look at the political crisis, right? And I'm not going to go on about it, but I don't know people that are Brexiters because I don't follow them on Facebook. So I only hear what people who are like-minded to me feel about it. So I only read what they think about Boris Johnson or Trump or whatever. But I'm sure that the people on the other side are just as rabid about the other things. And this world now, because of these things, because of phones, we can just zoom in on as narrow of a focus as we want, thank you very much, and just support our own worldview. And it's not good for politics, but it's pretty good if you like the Allman Brothers.
Yeah.
Because then you can search for the Allman Brothers fan club, and you can like the Allman Brothers fan club, and then you can start sharing music with other people that like the Allman Brothers. Because, you know, I went through most of my life thinking that I was the only guy that liked Southern rock.
I think people like Alec, people like Lee Graham, Penny at Haven Club in Oxford, and all these people that put on independent festivals now, independent shows, are a godsend. And I know Alec's been talking about this Viva la Revolution. Basically, let's get away from the corporate side and let's just get these bands out there, which is a fantastic idea. It just needs to work. Yeah,
well, I mean, it is working on that level, and you know, I know loads of people that just gave up playing gigs because there's no audiences and there's no point, there's no money, and I did it from the ages of you know, for about 10 years, from my late 20s, I just didn't want to know, because I'd been in a band that had a record deal and it fell apart, and I didn't get exactly what I thought I deserved, so therefore I wasn't going to do it, and it wasn't my fault. But I'm now more active than I've ever been musically. I travel further, I sell more records, more people know my music.
Wonderful setup now.
I've got all this gear, yeah, you know. It's kind of justifiable as a
Business venture.
is it? Yeah, you know, I hesitate to call it that because it sounds a bit cold, but you know,
It's allowed you to be able to make a living out of something you love doing.
well, I've put it in the middle. I've put it first, music. I've put it first, and so if you go, I will only be happy when I've got a record deal and go to gigs in a limo and have roadies. Well, okay, that's probably not going to happen, right? But if you go, I'm only happy when I'm playing music, which is the truth, folks. How do I play music all the time? Well, I seek out like-minded collaborators. I engage with audiences. I produce records. I've set, you know, I'll only be happy when a record company pay to make my album. Well, that isn't going to happen. But if I'm happy when I've got an album, then I don't have to bloody do it myself, right?
To quickly go back to our HR album, it was originally going to be released digitally, Hotel Toledo, and there was not a public outcry, but a public need for hard copies.
Well, yeah, I guess, I mean, you know, as we talked about the idea of it being this kind of live jammy thing that is more psychedelic or more jam band or more southern or whatever. And yeah, there was talk of an album, but kind of off the back of Jack's decision to leave, I wasn't sure that I wanted to invest the money that it takes to create artwork and to produce 1,000 CDs or whatever. On the basis that he was going to be leaving, and what would we do with them afterwards? Because, you know, what's the relevance?
People are not going to want something.
What's the relevance? Yeah, because this project, you know, if it would have, but it was originally supposed to be a CD, and the idea was it would give us something to sell at shows. So we, as we talked about, you know, it's merch for the table. It's an interesting thing. It's something for people to engage with. But yeah, in hindsight, it was a little bit of a rushed decision, because I said, well, okay, well, if you're leaving, then I don't want to spend all that money. And so we put a press release out, you know, when after Jack had said he wants to leave, said, you know, we do this. We're not going to release it on CD. We're just going to do it digitally, but we want you to hear it, so it's going to come out. And then there was a big outcry. No, we want CD. We want CD. So kind of Jack's announcement to leave did us a favour in that respect, because it bang, 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 bang. You know, dozens and dozens and dozens of pre-orders started coming in on the same day that he announced he was leaving. So I don't want him to leave. I didn't want him to leave. I wasn't expecting him to say he was going to leave. I'd be much happier if he was staying. But you know, the reality is we've come out of this with a really special record. If it is his swan song, it's a bloody good one.
It's a good way to go.
You know,
yeah.
and it's not what people expect. And I don't really like doing what people will expect.
Stars in my pathway. My road is as black as night. I got stars in my pathway, and my road is as black as night. I got a tremor in my heart, have taken my appetite. Whistles, and I have me a bird that sings. I got me a bird that whistles, and I have me a bird that sings. So sweet, sing for me, baby. And I got me a woman that I'm loving. She don't mean a thing. Train gotta go.
So, okay, so Hotel Toledo's out in November, as we talked about. Swan Song, unfortunately for Jack, it'll be after November when obviously you and Troy and whoever will probably sit down, where do we go RHR wise. But before that, you were talking also about the Mike Ross next album. It's going to be more like probably what people would have expected Hotel Toledo to have sounded like.
Yeah, well, I mean, so if you look on the timeline, last summer we made Clovis Limit. I did the basic tracking for it in Nashville, and then I came back and then I did all of the harmonies and the electric guitars here in my studio. I'd been back however long, for a couple of weeks or whatever, and then I'd also booked into Brighton Electric Studios over here, and I booked 4 or 5 days. So we set up, and on the first day, me and Darren and then Ricky, one of my bass players, we tracked about 16 songs, right? So 3 of those songs ended up on the RHR album. And the rest of them I didn't do anything with at the time. The next day, Troy and Jack came down. We did 6 songs with them, or 4 songs with them. Then the next day, I worked on some other stuff, and then the next day, I did the last 2 songs for the Clovis Limit. So it was like a big period of creativity. We pulled the RHR stuff out. We pulled the Clovis Limit Part 1 out, and that left about 12 songs, which I just put away. But all them songs were written at the same time. So if you look at She Painted the Moon and Ghost Hound Rider and Leviathan, which are my 3 contributions for Mahogany Drift, they have partners, siblings, relatives,
Long lost cousins, little,
yeah, you know,
coming back to visit,
twins, whatever, in these other 11 or 12 songs. So there's a song called The Loser, which was very nearly on the RHR album, but I just wanted to keep it for my album. There's another song called Shoot You If You Run, which is really heavy. It's really desert rocky. It's bonkers, and there's other stuff like that. But they're sibling creations of all the songs I wrote last summer.
all at the same period. Yeah.
And also, having watched what the response was to RHR, to hear us referred to as sounding like the Allmans, sounding like the James Gang, sounding like Humble Pie, sounding like all my favourite bands. I'm like, oh, you know those bands. Oh, well, I could
so you'll appreciate the music that I have in store.
I've got loads of songs like that. So my whole so the next record, there's more of everything. I've been talking it as a more record. It's my 4th solo album. It's the first one where I've had a setup where I've been able to spend 2 days overdubbing guitars. So it's allowed me to put backwards guitars, reverse delays. It's allowed me to do harmonies, to play slide guitars, and then back it up with fretted versions of the same guitars. This is about half my amps. The rest of them are stashed, but to be able to drag them out and spend time doing that. So there's more guitar, there's more drums. There's a song called Thanks a Lot, which is like Al, who's my producer, who kind of fixes everything up after I finish mucking about with it. He said, are you trying to do the entire 70s in one song? And the song's 4 minutes long, and it sounds like AC/DC, and it sounds like the Eagles, and it sounds like James Gang and all kinds of stuff. So that record will be, it's like the progression of songs like She Painted the Moon and Ghost Hound Rider. There's loads of guitar on it, because I never really thought where I could get away with loads of guitar, because in my head, there's a voice always saying to me, nobody wants to hear the guitar. They want to hear the singing. And if there's one thing I've learned from being in RHR is people want to hear the guitar.
There is a happy medium as well, though.
Yeah, there is, but really, the response from having 3 guitar players on the stage is I suspect it's like the big thing for RHR. All that guitar.
Of course, like you said, your previous album, Clovis Limit, Part 1.
There's no electric guitar on there.
So this is going to be Clovis Limit Part 2, but basically with electric guitar.
There is some electric guitar, but there aren't really any solos. What was the name of the? Yeah, I've got big plans for the second record, so much so that it takes my breath away. Am I ever going to be able to do it? But the Clovis Limit Part 1. So the idea for that, if anybody's read the press releases, it's a bit of a bonkers title, but the Clovis limit is, I took it from a book about an alternate future. I'm a big sci-fi fan. There's an alternate reality where and it looks back at American past in a different kind of way. So the Clovis limit is a shop in this book that sells Americana, right? And I call what I do Americana, because to me Americana is Neil Young, it's Wilco,
It's Americana roots,
yeah,
it's all that sort
it's
of...
Hank Williams,
Yeah.
it's Johnny Cash, all that kind of stuff. It's the Allman Brothers, that's Americana as far as I'm concerned. So it's a reference to that. But what it is alternate reality. And soon, when you start playing it's a little bit like Wayne's World when they start playing the time game. You can do anything you like. It's like what they've done with the reboot of the Star Trek. You could do anything you like as soon as you say the words alternate reality. So in the alternate,
bring anybody back.
yeah, anything you like. So if I start playing with alternate realities in reference to my songwriting styles and my playing styles, so here's the Mike Ross from an alternate reality, where he's the Graham Parsons Mike Ross, and here's the Mike Ross who's the Joe Walsh, here's the guy that likes AC/DC, here's the guy that likes the Small Faces.
I mean, that Rocky Mountain Way, when you played it for the very first time, it was in Pershore, I think.
Yeah, you were there, weren't you? Yeah, we were sound checking, rehearsing it. Yeah.
Oh, why don't we try this? And like everyone, but when you played it, it was just fantastic because, like you say, it's a bit like that Hotel Toledo. Everybody just joins in.
Yeah, I call it coalescing. Really, you just kind of we'll find our space. Off we go.
And it worked. It worked really, really well.
Yeah, it was good. And I get an opportunity to sing that song, which is a cool song, you know.
Yeah, no, it sounded great, and I think it went down a treat as well. I think you played it after that as well, didn't you?
We had played it a couple more times on that run, and then maybe we played it in Germany. Maybe we did.
I still believe people do love a good cover. Doesn't matter what band they're watching.
Yeah, I do.
When you go and watch Blackberry Smoke, I love Blackberry Smoke. They'll cover another song, even if it's in the middle of another song. They'll throw in, I don't know, Midnight Rider or something else, and it works fantastic.
Well, the Black Rose are doing that. You know, Black Rose were doing that in the 90s. When I went to see the Black Rose the first time in maybe 1990 or possibly 1991, and they did Shake by Otis Redding. I'm like, oh, I really like Otis Redding. I would never have guessed at that time that the Black Rose were big Otis Redding fans. It's as clear as the nose on my face now because of the way that Chris sings. But being able to do that, do you want to shake? You know, and they sing that stuff, and then it's like, I get that. And that's kind of why I like Chris Robinson, because he sounds like Paul Rodgers. Paul Rodgers was a big Otis Redding fan. That's where that comes from. So listen to Free, and my dad was a big Free fan. You know, so it allows us to stitch it all together.
I've seen that with Jack's new album as well. There's a track on there, and like Jack's a big Beatles fan, and he says it was a Beatles influence. But to me, it's an Oasis influence. Yeah. But just because he's where he comes from, but also because obviously Oasis were influenced by the Beatles. So again, you can trace the timeline back. It's very similar.
Well, I mean, I've spent my adult life. I'll show you in the house when we're finished. I've got about 200 autobiographies, you know, and I'm always looking, and the rock, you know, there's Rock Family Tree things, and looking at the guy I'd never heard of, and nowadays googling him and checking his album out on iTunes and whatever, and I draw with my records, you know, my production and the way that I play. I draw from a wide palette. I draw from, I don't know, Booker White to Funkadelic.
You can have George Clinton, you,
know.
can have all these influence though, but you can still put your own stamp on, which is what you need to do, obviously, at the end of it all.
Well, I mean, I know where my inspiration may lie. I watched an Eric Clapton interview once where he's talking about that, and he's going, I'll take like a B.B. King line, and then I might blend it into an Albert King line, and in order to get to the Albert King line, I put another little thing in, and that thing's me. And it seems to be that the thing that's me is the thing that people like. Yeah. So, you know, I guess we all do it. I don't mind referencing things. You'll hear references, you'll hear samples if you listen hard enough. On my new record, for example, I sampled that track we were just listening to. I've sampled it myself because there was a sound and a feel that I got. And I'm like, well, you know what? Instead of trying to recreate all that, I've got the bloody master files here, so I'm just going to do it. So the isolated guitar from that track we were just listening to will crop up here and there
In one of your...
on the new Clovis record, which I think is going to be called Viva Dystopia.
So when are we looking into this?
Not for a year.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I
next-
haven't even finished tracking it yet. I'm waiting for a couple of people. I've got a couple of guests who are going to come and do. There's a bit of harmonica to be played, some backing vocals, some percussion. There's a song called Unforgiven, which is a very Allman Brothers style instrumental that I wrote with Jules Fothergill in mind to play on, and indeed we were moving towards being able to do some collaborations, but unfortunately he died.
And that was the first show of the year. I saw
That
you
was
guys
it.
as
So that was
RHR
his last
supporting.
Yeah. Well, that was when we were talking about it. We're playing Carlisle Festival on Saturday, and originally Troy wasn't going to be on that show, and then we're playing at the Southport Atkinson in October, and Jack isn't on that show because he's in Spain. So Jules and Lorna were going to come and augment the RHR lineup for those two shows. So it was very sad that they were unable to do that. You know, it's a great loss. So that song Unforgiven has now become, in my head, it's like a tribute to Jules. And so I've ended up playing both guitar parts because I didn't want anybody else to do it, you know. But Rob Millis, who's a keyboard player who played a lot with Jules, he's playing organ on that song,
Cool.
and I have some other stuff coming on. So anyway, long story short, there's a few bits left to go, and then it will go to be mixed, and then I'll learn how many mistakes I made. When Al Scott, my producer, goes, well, you really should have been doing it like this. So there'll no doubt be some work to do then.
So we're looking next year, sort of.
Yeah, next September, and it will be. It may come out in about 3 different ways. I want to release it as well, ideally as one file. So you know when
Love Sexy by Prince, perfect example.
does he do that? Okay.
Press play, the whole album.
That's kind of how I want to do it. I don't think iTunes will let you. I think there's something like a 30-minute maximum file length or something. So you might find a digital version which is 2 or 3 files, but the idea is it will be one continuous piece of music that just like Mahogany Drift does.
Yeah.
There's if you ever listen to Mahogany Drift on CD, it doesn't stop. It's gapless, so that they fade from one to the other. And I spent a fair bit of time making the noises for that. I'm taking that one step further with this. This song Unforgiven it won't just be on the album once. There'll be a version of it, and then there'll be an alternate version with synthesizers and backing vocals.
With your alternate
that
universe.
will just gonna come in there. Yeah, there's a 34-minute electronic piece just created with Moog synthesizers and bass guitars through Leslie speakers and things, and it won't all be on there, but bits of it will. And the idea is that it's going to be this kind of, as I used the word before, continuum, and the songs exist within it. How the hell I get that onto a record, I don't know, but there'll be a double vinyl, there'll be a digital version which is different, and then there may also be like a version that is just the songs, you know, just the 12 songs, without any of the jiggery pokery, like a radio version or something like that.
Well, something to look forward to as well.
Yes,
Sounds exhausted just talking about it, let alone actually completing the project.
We'll see on that one. We'll see.
So obviously, RHR finishes November. What have you got planned for the rest of the year after that, personally, and obviously with Mike Ross Band? With the studio.
Yeah, I've got gigs, Mike Ross Band gigs. I've got some gigs which are more around the sound of the Clovis Limit with a double bass and another guitar. I'm going to Sweden, I'm going to France with RHR, I'm going to Russia, I'm going to Spain.
Painful experience to get to Russia, obviously, from yesterday.
I fell over, yeah. It's good though, I like going over there. So that's it to the end of the year. Troy and I also start work on a record together next weekend, so we'll see where that goes. We've got collaborators in mind for what RHR might turn into. We may hire somebody full time. We may keep it as a revolving door. Yeah, we may do it as you know, Redfern Ross Brothers, and I always have a special guest. I don't know.
Experience.
Yeah. we'll see. We'll see. Because the thing is that it's really important to me that we have the best time we can have with Jack.
Yes, it.
So
Until
whatever's
the end of
coming,
that, yeah.
whatever's coming, because Jack's been a good friend of mine for years, you know, and I want to really honour that, and I want to take
It's understandable, yeah.
I want to take the best of what we've got left in this configuration.
It's respect as well. It's
Yeah,
some respect.
well, he's my friend, you know, and I want to kind of rinse it out. I want to have the best of.
You want to end
those
this
things.
era
Yeah.
on a high.
Yeah, and then so if we do that on the Sunday, and then so come the Monday morning, Troy and I are going to have some decisions to make. But there are no gigs. The next gig in the book for RHR currently is Crazy Cowboy 5.
March.
Yeah. So there's no rush. There's no rush to make those decisions. But I will be finishing my record, and I've got some collaborations with other people coming up as well. I do session work out here as well, so there's guitar playing to be done.
Exciting times.
Yeah.
Well, you know, thank you for inviting me to your wonderful studio
You're
today. It's just like a step back in time. It's amazing. I mean, can't see
museum.
it on camera at the moment, but there's a fantastic Wurlitzer to my right. You've got old Gretsch amplifiers, and it's just amazing. Fender amps. It's just like I would imagine Aladdin's cave for any muso that has any interest in old school instruments and equipment. They just love it here.
Well, it all gets used, you know. I was talking to my friend Roscoe the other day, Roscoe Levy, and we were chatting about studio gear and how I've done it, and it's just been kind of necessity. So I've got like this is a very modern thing, but it's connected to some really old stuff, and it's a hybrid. So, and it's all based around being able to get the best sound to tape in the quickest time possible.
You were telling me earlier before we started this as well about the GPO telephone handset you use to record a blues number.
Hello, yes, call the cops. Everything you record in there sounds like it was recorded in the Delta in the 1930s. It's on Mahogany Drift. I sang backing vocals on Home on Judgment Day through that. Home on Judgment Day. It's on the Clovis Limit as a telephone voice. It's all over my new record. But the other day was the thing, I clipped it with just a plastic clip to a mic stand with my resonator guitar and recorded the Robert Johnson song.
And I'd listen, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, you'll hear that. I mean, that's Stones in My Password. That's coming out next month. It'll be on iTunes and what have you.
I'll definitely go and listen to that and buy that because it sounds so cool.
Yeah.
It really does. It works. It's a great way of recording, and it certainly works for that song.
I've actually ordered another one so I can do it in stereo.
One for each year.
One for each year.
Man, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully you're going to play a couple of acoustic tracks for us, and can't wait for RHR album to be released in November. Obviously your last few tours with Jack, your solo stuff, anything else that's coming up, it's going to be great. And next year sounds really exciting with the new Mike Ross record. So thanks for talking to us, and good luck for the future.
Thanks, Will.